How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
That's more like it. England, this is the team we expect to see at ICC men's events. And they've posted 351, the highest score in the early days of the tournament so far. More than half of those runs by Ben Duckett, who does have the highest individual score ever in Champions Trophy cricket. It was compelling 50 overs cricket viewing. Steve Smith had to manage his bowlers. Adam Zampa had periods of play where he tried to pull things back. But 351 is some score. This is Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Matchday. This is where we make sense of it all in the company of Anil Kumble, Ashton Agar and Nick Knight. Now, gentlemen, I wasn't with you on the pre-show, so honest to God, who predicted 350 plus? Please raise your hand. You get to go first. Is that right? Is that right, Anil? Ashton?
Yeah,
He isn't lying now, is he?
Nick did say no. Nick did say that England will be hoping to get 351. We'll have to wait and see.
That's good enough, Anil. You're a tough taskmaster, man.
I know, 350 plus. So I mean, he didn't call it out as 350 plus, but he was hoping, just like how England were hoping before the start. But they've done well. I think they've done really well to get to that target.
You wait to see how I finish the show. I'm going to make all three of you call something out. For now, Nick Knight, you called it, in my opinion, 351. You'd be happy with that?
Yeah, I mean, Anil's absolutely right. I was slightly nervous sort of predicted 350, but actually, when you look back over the innings, I think England might be there now in the break, thinking they could have done better. I mean, they were 200 for 3 off 30 overs with the partnership developed, so I think they were thinking beyond that. They got themselves in a position where they could go beyond it. Will they take it? Absolutely. I thought it was a masterful knock, a really, truly masterful knock from Ben Duckett. You know, sometimes with this England side, Renak, their game style can overtake the sort of game situation, and that was the debate we had at the top of the show, actually. And I think England have got that spot on. I think they've been absolutely perfect. The way they managed and constructed that innings with Ben Duckett at the fore, I thought was terrific.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that we want to talk about with Ben Duckett. Ashton, give me your thoughts, especially when Nick says, and I think we heard that through that innings as well, England might be targeting 370, so have they actually fallen a little bit short of where they could have been?
Oh, I certainly think they have. They got themselves into a position, particularly when Butler came into bat. I thought they were going to, get closer to 380 and potentially beyond that. When Butler got out, he was really starting to hit the middle of the bat, and he was starting to look dangerous. So that was a key wicket at that time. But 350, you're taking that every single time. To chase that down is going to be really difficult. It's going to take someone to get 100, as we saw with Duckett, and a really big partnership like we saw with Duckett and Root.
There's been a criticism of Ben Duckett that he goes too hard and he doesn't go on beyond 50-60, and we tend to believe that that's what England tell their batters. It's not their job to get 150s, 160s. So I'll take this to all of you on what impressed you most about Ben Duckett from this innings today. Anil, you first.
Yeah, I thought the control. I think Ben Duckett, we've seen him really go hard against the bowlers, spinners. He looks to reverse sweep. But his first reverse sweep came in after he got his 100. So, it goes to show that probably England had discussed this before coming into this tournament. After the losses against India in India, they perhaps said, look, we're going to play in Pakistan. It's going to be a good surface. Someone will have to bat through. And Ben Duckett did that today. I thought that partnership with Joe Root was critical after they lost those 2 early wickets, 158-run partnership. I mean, that was crucial. And the way he controlled the innings, even after 100, it was easy for him to just slog every ball that he got and possibly could have got out. But he realized that the rest of the batters haven't been in the greatest of form coming into this tournament. So he thought that it's best that for England to get to where they are to now, he had to bat through, and it was brilliant to see Ben Duckett control his innings.
Ashton, what made it hard for Australia's bowlers to get the better of him?
Yeah, I completely agree with Anil. I think he played with the maturity that we probably haven't seen from him before, so that was really impressive. He was able to absorb a bit of pressure with the start that England had, form a great partnership with Joe Root. But one other thing I thought today, he scored all around the ground. I think sides have been successful in the white ball format, limiting Duckett to one part of the ground. today he looked like he wasn't trying to invent anything from something that wasn't there. So which meant he was able to stand still, watch the ball, and play appropriate shots. He realised that the outfield was rapid. He hit a lot of fours, wasn't looking to hit a lot of sixes, and he also targeted the fifth bowler really nicely. I thought he targeted Glenn Maxwell really well and put the other bowlers under pressure and made Steve Smith have to bring his frontline bowlers back on, probably when he didn't want to.
Yeah, particularly good against spin. Nick, you want to carry on? And just in terms of where this elevates Ben Duckett to, he almost feels like a missing piece to the England batting puzzle from the last, say, 50 overs World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, he obviously comes into the contest with the confidence of being a high-class test match opening batsman, so I think he feels comfortable. He plays a very similar way. It's not an adjustment of style to go and play in the way that he's just played. I think the things struck me when watching him play. Firstly, how he managed his innings. We know Ben Duckett really well. He plays the sweeps, reverse sweeps a lot. It's a favoured way of him playing against spin. But he kind of, as Anil just said, he kind of put that to one side for a while, and just because, I think partly because the wicket was skidding on a little bit, and again, the spinners will tell you more on this than me, but when that happens, you just get wary of playing that sweep shot because it just slides under the bat. So I think he managed that situation well. Again, at the top of the show, we talked a lot about rotating the strike. England rotated the strike fantastically well, particularly with Root and with Duckett, and I think that just put Australia under a little bit of pressure because they couldn't get control of the innings. So I thought those two things that kind of underpinned the Ben Duckett innings.
Right, just a couple of overs more, and you can see those numbers just on screen before that, where he got 96 of 73 against spin, very good against leg spin. Had he managed to just see out Marnus Labuschagne and batted 50 overs, he would have become the first English batter to bat through the innings, while England have batted first since. Nick, do you know the answer?
Is it me?
Yes, it is you, on the last two occasions. And it took a hell of a ball to get him as well. Anil, can you imagine what Steve Smith would have done had he had you in his team if Marnus Labuschagne is bowling 48 and 50?
Yeah, I thought, I mean, possibly Spencer Johnson was injured, otherwise he would have ideally wanted to bowl the fast bowler in the death. I don't think Marnus Labuschagne trained as the fifth bowler or the sixth bowler or as a backup bowler to be bowling the 50th over. So I'm sure it's the first thing for Marnus Labuschagne, and I mean that ball just died on him, and Ben Duckett probably was hoping that the DRS won't work. He almost got through, but finally it took its own time before the DRS came through and then showed that it was hitting middle stump.
Ashton, surely Spencer Johnson had a niggle or something was up. Not that we know of it, but humour me for a second. Just in case this was Steve Smith saying, right, I'm going to go with something out of the box and throw it to Labuschagne. Or we know Marnus is enthusiastic. It's not that far out of character for him to say, I'll bowl these 2 overs. Or is it?
Enthusiastic is kind, I think. He's a madman, Marnus, and he's happy to do whatever the team needs. He will be pushing at the selection table now to be Australia's #1 death bowler, I assure you that. And those couple of wickets have probably helped his case, and it's going to drive all the bowling unit insane for a little while. So I think it probably hurt them to see him get those wickets, but at the same time, we love him to be able to do that job. Yeah, but then you do see, when someone is put under that pressure, they can get hit around a bit, and Joffrey did that quite well. 21 off 10 balls is really important in that innings. But Marnus, that really low bouncing leg spin ball, I'm pretty sure he calls it the carpet snake. He tries to get it to go underground.
In all seriousness, though, this was a tough outing for what is a fast bowling attack short of international experience. So, Ashton, sum up the challenges Australia faced and Steve Smith faced in terms of the resources that he had.
I think just trying to build pressure, really. When you've got a really good wicket, the way you've got to try and actually take wickets is to force the batter to do something off balls they don't want to do it to. So, do you trust that they have enough control to bring a fielder up so you maybe only have 3 out, create a few more dot balls, build a little bit more pressure, and then bring about a false shot from the batsman? It was pretty difficult to do that. That is a very flat wicket, and we did expect England to score above 300. As Nick said, he got it bang on with 350. So I think they were the challengers. And then, you'd like to have two Adam Zampers in every team, I guess. Like, whilst Ben Duckett scored a few runs off him, he picked the two main wickets up at crucial times in the game. So that was hard. And if Johnson is injured, that creates a new selection dilemma for Australia now moving forwards.
Yeah, we wait for a little more info to see what's wrong with Spencer Johnson, if at all. We'll come back with that, I'm sure, by the end of this game. Anil, report card on Steve Smith, the captain. Adam Zampa bowled a crucial bunch of overs. If Australia are indeed to chase this, I think we can look at that phase where there was a little bit of pressure built just after 2 wickets fell quickly.
I'm assuming that Spencer Johnson had a niggle, and then that's why Steve Smith had to go to Marnus Labuschagne. But I thought he did really well in utilizing that fifth option. He didn't give them a long run. It probably cost them, if you leave out the 10 overs, other than the Marnus last 2 overs, it cost them about 77 runs, other than that Labuschagne's last over. So in that sense, I thought Steve Smith, with the resources that he had, he did pretty well. He would have perhaps wanted England to be restricted to under 325 or 330. I thought that was probably a par score, but maybe 350 is slightly hard on the batters. They'll have someone like Ashton mentioned. One of them will have to get a big 100. Another partnership like a Joe Root or Steve Smith will probably have to play that kind of a role when Australia look to chase the star.
All right. Let's look at what else worked in that innings. There's little that we can say of Joe Root that we haven't said already, Nick Knight. That solitary net session that he had, which is of course contested as an allegation during the India series, held him in good stead. But that is just class from Joe Root, which helps England play the template that sometimes they've been guilty of not playing.
Yeah, go back to Jamie Smith as well. England have promoted him to number 3, partly to give the role of Joe Root more clarity, I think. You don't always want Joe in the first 3 or 4 overs with the power play, so it gives his role as a little bit more clarity, and he plays it standingly well and knocks the ball around. Again, I go back to rotation of the strike, but I think there's no one better, well, not many better in the world game than him at doing that in those middle overs. You might look at the strike rate at the end, but I think it was the job done with the partnership of Ben Duckett, having lost a couple of early wickets, which is what England have done in the past sometimes, and then they've just sort of been a bit headstrong and a bit, this is the way we're going to play. And then all of a sudden the game gets away from them a little bit. So I think it's the experience, the nous, the know-how, the cleverness, the reading the match situation that Joe Root brings, and his ability to play that out. Ben Duckett followed suit. England got themselves in a strong position, and they're somewhere near where they want to be.
All right. Now, before I go to the chase, let's just wrap up the other highlight of the first innings. And Ashton, it's fair to say Alex Carey isn't getting the gloves back anytime soon.
Oh my God, yeah, I don't know if he'll be frustrated at himself for doing that, but they were potentially game-changing catches, I guess. You can look at it that way, although England scored 350 to bring that sort of energy in the field. When someone takes a one-handed diving catch and it's your former keeper, that lifts everyone a little bit. It gives everyone a massive boost, particularly when it's such a big wicket like Phil Salt. It lifts the spirits of everyone early, and the energy stays up. When you're playing in a foreign country and it's not your home crowd, you have to rely on each other out there, and you have to give as much as you can to your team. So Alex Carey was fantastic in the field this evening for Australia.
Tell me a little more about this side of Alex Carey. We know he's an athlete and he's fit, and I've seen him go to the waterfalls in Dharamshala when he's there, so I know how fit the man looks. That was his first catch in the outfield in ODI cricket. But is this surprising you as much as it is many of us who've never seen that before?
Yeah, it's a good call. I actually haven't seen him field too much. I expect him to have good hands though, and he's a very good athlete. He almost played Australian rules football professionally. In Australia, to do that, you have to be, the top athlete in the country. So he moves beautifully, but, without the gloves, it's a different story. I don't know how hard it can be, particularly when the ball's flying around, but he looked as solid as a rock under those balls today, and I think the bowlers are pretty glad that he's out there now.
All right, now let's move forward to the chase. Carey will have a role to play with the bat. He's one of the form players, but the big one is always Travis Head, especially when it's a big chase. And England did find an answer, Nick, when these two sides played the bilateral series in England not too long ago, where Travis Head got 100. There were bowling plans that then came around, where Bryden Cass in particular troubled him. They do come into this major game and major tournament with a plan for Travis Head.
Yeah, I mean, clearly he is a very fine player. He has very little weakness, if any. I think if there are any, England might look to go short to start with, possibly. Yeah, I think that's one area. You don't want to be any width whatsoever. He'll throw the bat at it. He's a very, very fine player. So, yeah, I mean, possibly. I mean, the numbers tell you that a little bit. But the other option I think England have got with Travis Head, and I don't know if they're going to do it, but it's going to take a little bit of bravery, is to actually just open with spin, and off spin particularly from Joe Root. It's something that England have done a little bit of in the past. I wouldn't be surprised if they could get an over or two of Joe Root out, particularly as he is now one of the fifth bowling options. You know, how they manage Joe Root's for off spin is going to be absolutely crucial. So that might just be a way that they can get him into the game and get the fifth bowler going. But Travis Head clearly is going to be one of the keys. England have to be very savvy with their bowling attack. They're going to have to be very savvy with taking pace on and off. Use the pace that they've obviously got there with Mark Wood and Jofra. But I come back to what we said again at the top of the show, the middle section. If Smith is going with Head or whatever it looks like with English, they've got a partnership going. Can Jofra Archer or Mark Wood or Adil Rashid come back and break that partnership? That's where I see the game being so crucial.
All right. Yeah, those numbers that you saw there of Cass's success against Travis Head was essentially a lot of balls where it was short, like Nick Knight said, and cramping him for room somewhere over there. Tough pitch, though, Anil. It looks like you can score 350. This looks like the best batting surface so far from the three venues that we've seen.
Yeah, it's been. I think that's the challenge for the English bowlers, because yes, yeah, even if you err in length, even a fraction, then it gives the batters the opportunity to just score runs, and the outfield is fast. So yes, 350 is not something that is beyond Australia. England will have to bowl really well. I think in terms of England, the onus I believe, will be on Adil Rashid. How Australia play Adil Rashid and how they're going to sort of sort those 10 overs will determine. And England also have the fifth bowler challenge as well, just like how Australia had. So Liam Livingstone, Joe Root will have to sort of fill that fifth bowler's role. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting chase, and hopefully we'll have the first game where it'll go down to the wire.
Yeah, I would love that. Ashton, you know these boys in the Australian team better than anybody. What's usually the tone of the dressing room when you've got 352 to chase with the kind of guys that their batting already has?
I think, first of all, summing up the conditions, they know exactly how that wicket is playing now. They know exactly how England are going to come at them. So it's summing up those conditions and playing accordingly. Then it's about doing that using your own method. And that's something you'll hear Andrew McDonald speak about in team meetings and in the media as well. He goes back to that word method quite a lot. And there's a lot of trust in that group for each player to take their own individual method and trust that 100% out in the middle. Really, the other thing they're going to have to do is bat in great partnerships. And those boys love doing that more than anything else. They're all really good friends in that team, and that's, I guess, gives you a bit of insight into how that team operates. They love just playing for each other. There's been plenty of times where they've played with their backs against the wall, particularly in the media as well. They've copped a lot of flack in recent times, so they love sticking together, working hard for each other, and trying to win big games of cricket. And there's no bigger game than Australia versus England in their eyes.
All right. Now, before I come to predictions for the chase, I'd like to inform all three of you that our lovely social media team has informed me that there's a bit of history that happened on this day, and we do our On This Day segments. And if you go back 22 years ago to the World Cup in 2003, this was the day that the fastest recorded ball at the time was bowled by Shoaib Akhtar 2. And again, would you like to put your hand up, Nick Knight? Do you remember it?
Yeah, I do. I had my eyes closed, actually. I can't remember too much about it, but yes.
You tucked it away with ridiculous ease, as I recall.
Yeah. I mean, the whole spell was ridiculously quick. I won't bore you with the preamble to it, but we were at the ground, and he was. I was quite a nervous player, and I'd get out there early, and there was just me on the pitch, and there was Shoaib. He came to the end of his mark, which was by the side screen base. He came running through, obviously just the security guards protecting the pitch, and he ran through and pretended to bowl a ball, and I pretended to hit one, probably similar to the ball he did bowl. And he said, "I'm going to bowl. I can't use the word, but quick." And wasn't about an hour later, that's exactly what he was bowling. So I think the ball before, or somewhere near the ball before, I went to try and pull one. Same, so everything was the same length. Flew off the face of the bat and went back over the keeper's head for 6. I realised then that it was a pretty quick spell. By the way, Marcus Trescothick and Michael Vaughan had no interest whatsoever about getting down my end. They were just down the other end. They were just sitting watching, and I was sort of fending it left, right, and centre. And I kind of got the pace of it just about at the end.
All right, brilliant. 2003 World Cup, Cape Town was the venue. Shoaib Akhtar bowled the fastest ball on the 22nd of February 2003. Anil Kumble remembers that World Cup, part of the Indian team that went on to the final. Ashton Agar, you were 10 years old, weren't you?
I remember watching it. I remember watching it very clearly, but I was young. I was young. My hair might not suggest that, but I really was.
I know that. I know you and me both. You and me both, Ashton. Yeah. So let's now focus on the chase. And now, since Anil Kumble wasn't too keen to give Nick Knight brownie points for having called the course of the first innings, Anil will start by telling me with a really hard call how he sees this game going. Mr. Kumble, all yours.
I think England have the edge. I certainly believe that. I think Adil Rashid will be the main bowler who's going to pick up 3 wickets for England.
And England, therefore, to win this, Anil, I guess, in your opinion?
Yeah. Yes.
All right. Ashton Agar.
I think England certainly do have the edge, and Australia are the ones that are under pressure now. When 350 is on the board, you've got a heap of pressure in front of you, and you need to start really well. But like I said before, they have the advantage of knowing the conditions now, knowing how the ball's reacting off the surface. Hopefully some dew comes in, which makes fielding and bowling a little bit more difficult, particularly towards the back end of the innings. So if Australia can get a good start, and a big part of that goes onto Travis Head's shoulders, they can kill a bit of the chase early. Steve Smith, Marnus, Inglis, they come into their own in those middle overs, and hopefully Australia can win the game.
Yeah, I could see your moral conflict here of current player trying to be studio pundit in that, Ashton. I got the studio pundit response. Very good, I must say, especially since this is your first gig with us. But now tell me what the Aussie would say if he wasn't on a show.
If I wasn't on the show, I would have said more bluntly that I think Australia can do it because we love pumping England.
There we go, much better. And on that note, Nick Knight.
And you, Ashton, you used to do that regularly. Unfortunately, McGrath, Warne, et al. It's a formality, unfortunately. Things have changed, obviously, a little bit recently. I think England, obviously, have a slight advantage with runs on the board. However, I think it might be a bit closer than it might look. I think England's fifth bowler option is a concern. I think big ground, if they rotate the strike well, they have a long batting lineup. I think this could be a close match.
And yet you see England prevailing, right, Nick?
Yeah, I see England prevailing, but England's still got a lot of work to do here. I still believe that. I still think Australia will fancy their chances. I'd rather have runs on the board.
All right, thank you very much, Nick Knight, Ashton Agar, Anil Kumble. Tell you what the tournament does need is a thriller. We've had pretty one-sided games so far. Let's hope Australia and England live up to the billing. 352, it'll take some chasing. If Australia get close, it should make for a terrific post-match show. Join us anyway on Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Match Day.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.